You can study English for years, know a ton of vocabulary, understand movies without subtitles, and still freeze when it's your turn to speak. And what makes it worse is that it's usually not in a classroom. It's in real life. A meeting, a quick phone call, a cashier asking a simple question, a new coworker saying, "So how's it going?" And your brain suddenly feels slow. Not because you're not smart, but because you're trying to do too much at once. You're translating, checking grammar, searching for the perfect word, trying to sound professional, trying to sound natural, and trying not to look nervous. That pressure is real. And I want you to notice something. The people who sound fluent are not always the people who know the most English. Very often, they're the people who have better daily habits around English. Small, boring habits. The kind that don't look impressive. The kind that feel almost too simple. But they build something powerful over time. Today I want to use a story to explore that idea. And the story is about someone you've definitely heard of, Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world. A guy who built a fortune slowly, patiently, and very intentionally. And look, this is not a finance episode. You don't need to care about money or investing to get value from this. Because what's interesting about Buffett is not just what he bought or when he bought it, it's the way he lives, the routines, the daily choices, the calm, consistent habits that compound over decades. And that word, compound, matters for you too. Because English works the same way. Confidence works the same way. Fluency works the same way. You don't wake up one day magically fluent. It builds, quietly, repetition, simple inputs, over time. So, as I tell this story, I want you to listen in two ways. First, just enjoy it and follow along. Let your brain relax. Second, keep asking yourself, what is the habit here? And how could I use that same habit to build my English? Because most adult learners don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they try to do English like a big dramatic event. A huge study session once a week. A perfect plan they can't follow. Or they wait for confidence before they speak. And confidence doesn't come first. Confidence is a result. It's a side effect of showing up. Now, quick side note before we get into the heart of it. If you like this kind of long, calm English practice through stories and real-life ideas, you can subscribe, hit like, and if you feel like it, tell me in the comments what your biggest speaking struggle is right now. Is it meetings, small talk, phone calls, pronunciation, confidence, overthinking? I read that stuff, and it helps me make episodes that actually match your real life. All right, let's talk about Warren Buffett. When people picture billionaires, they often imagine luxury, fancy cars, private jets, huge mansions, expensive watches. Buffett is kind of the opposite. He's famous for living in the same house for decades. He's famous for being calm, for being patient, for not chasing trends. And the reason that matters is because it shows you something important about success. A lot of success is not exciting. It's not dramatic. It's steady. And one of the clearest daily habits Buffett is known for is reading. A lot of reading. You'll hear stories about him reading for hours a day when he was younger, and even later in life he still reads constantly. Newspapers, reports, books, company statements. And if you're thinking, okay, Tom, but I'm not trying to be a billionaire, just tell me how this helps my English, stay with me. Because reading is not just reading. It's input. It's feeding your brain. It's giving yourself language to use later without forcing it. And the biggest problem I see in adult learners is this. They want to speak better, so they only practice speaking. and they feel frustrated because speaking feels hard and slow. But speaking is output. Output depends on input. Think of it like cooking. You can't cook a great meal if your kitchen is empty. You need ingredients. You need something to work with. Reading gives you ingredients. Listening gives you ingredients. And then speaking becomes easier because you have more ready-to-use phrases in your head. A lot of learners try to create sentences from scratch every time, like building a house every time you want to sleep. Native speakers don't do that. We use chunks. We use familiar phrases. We reuse patterns. We say things like, "To be honest, I'm not sure," or "That makes sense," or "I'll get back to you," or "The main thing is," those are not advanced. They're just ready. So one Buffett habit is daily reading, daily input, not once in a while, not only when you feel motivated, daily, even if it's short, even if it's simple. Now, Buffett also has a habit that people don't talk about as much, but it's there in everything he does. He avoids noise. He avoids distractions. He avoids the feeling of rushing. He doesn't need to react to every headline. He doesn't need to follow every trend. He's not panicking every day. He's selective. And this is huge for English learners because your biggest enemy might not be grammar. It might be noise. The noise in your head, the noise of comparison, the noise of YouTube videos telling you that you must learn 10,000 words, fix your accent, master idioms, speak perfectly, never make mistakes, and do it fast. Most learners are carrying this invisible pressure, and the pressure creates tension, and tension kills fluency. Have you ever noticed that when you're relaxed, your English is better, and when you're stressed, it disappears? That's not a mystery. Your brain is protecting you. Stress makes you narrow. You become cautious. You start checking everything. You start translating. You start trying to control every sentence. Buffett's calm is a habit, and calm can be your habit too. You can practice speaking in a calmer way, slower, simpler, with less performance pressure. You can choose not to chase every little mistake. You can choose to communicate instead of impress. Another Buffett habit is patience. Everybody wants the exciting story, the big moment, the lucky break. But Buffett's story is mostly slow growth over a long time. People call it overnight success, but it's really decades of consistency. And he's known for holding investments for a long time. He doesn't jump in and out. He doesn't constantly change his plan. That is exactly how English works. You can have breakthroughs, sure. You can improve fast for a few weeks. But the real power is staying with it. Not quitting after a bad conversation. Not giving up after an awkward moment. Because here's what happens to so many learners. They have one experience that hurts. They try to say something in English, it comes out wrong, someone looks confused, or they get interrupted, or they feel embarrassed. And then their brain saves that memory like a warning sign. Danger, don't speak again. And next time, you're in your head. You're cautious. You try to avoid speaking. You wait until you have the perfect sentence. And the problem is, real life doesn't wait. Meetings move on. Conversations keep going. So you miss chances, and then you get less practice. And then you feel less confident. It becomes a loop. Patience breaks that loop. Patience says, today wasn't perfect. Fine, I'm still speaking tomorrow. Patience says, I'm building something. It's going to take time. And that mindset is not just positive thinking. It's practical. It keeps you in the game long enough to win. Now, another thing Buffett is famous for is staying in his circle of competence. That means he focuses on what he understands. He doesn't pretend to be an expert in everything. He chooses businesses he can actually explain in simple terms. And again, think about your English. A lot of learners try to sound advanced before they feel comfortable. They try to use complicated words. They try to speak like an academic paper, and then they get stuck. They lose control of the sentence. They get nervous. They forget the word. They panic. One of the best things you can do for fluency is to stay inside your circle of English, your comfortable English, and slowly expand it. If you're in a meeting and you want to say something, you don't need to sound like a TED Talk. You can say, I think we should focus on the main issue first. Or, from my side, this is the priority. Or, my concern is the timing. That's strong English. That's professional. And it's simple. Simple is not childish. Simple is clear. And clarity is confidence. I've had so many students tell me, Tom, I feel like my English is too simple. And I always tell them, good, start there. Simple is fast. Simple is reliable. Simple helps you stay calm. And when you can speak simply without fear, you can start adding detail, nuance, personality. But if you try to be complex too early, you'll hesitate, and your confidence will drop. Buffett also has a habit of making decisions with a long-term view. He's not trying to win today. He's trying to win over years. So let's make that real for you. Imagine you're traveling. You go into a cafe and you want to order. You say, "Can I have a coffee?" The barista says, "For here or to go?" And you freeze for half a second because you didn't expect that question. You answer, "To go, please," but you feel embarrassed because it wasn't smooth. Long-term thinking says, that moment was practice. That moment gave me a new phrase, for here or to go. Now I know it. Now next time will be easier. That's the long-term view. Or imagine a work call. Someone asks, "What's the status on that task?" You know what they mean, but you hesitate. You answer, "We are doing it," but it sounds a little off. Later, you think, I should have said, "It's in progress," or "We're working on it," or "We're on track." Long-term thinking says, great, now you have 3 phrases for next time. You're building your personal phrase bank. You don't need to be perfect today. You need to collect useful English and reuse it tomorrow. That's compounding. Now, one of my favorite Buffett habits is how he communicates. He's known for explaining things in plain language. He doesn't try to sound smart. He tries to be understood. And that is a lesson so many English learners need, especially high-level learners. Because when you're advanced, you sometimes feel pressure to prove it. You want to show you're smart, professional, educated. So you speak in a complicated way. But native speakers respect clarity more than complexity. They trust people who sound clear, people who sound grounded, people who sound like they know what they're saying. So here's a mindset shift. Stop trying to sound like you have perfect English. Start trying to sound like you have a clear message. Those are different goals. A clear message sounds like, here's what I recommend, here's why, here's the next step. A clear message sounds like, I agree with the direction, but I'm worried about the timeline. A clear message sounds like, just to confirm, we're meeting on Thursday at 3. That's real English. That's what people use. Now let me talk about a habit Buffett has that might surprise you. He says no a lot. He protects his time. He doesn't fill his schedule with endless meetings. He doesn't say yes just because other people want him to. And I want you to connect that to your English journey. Your time and attention are limited. If you're trying to learn English with 10 different apps, 5 different courses, 3 different YouTube channels, and you're constantly switching, you'll feel busy, but you won't feel fluent. You'll feel scattered. Fluency comes from depth, doing fewer things more consistently, repeating, revisiting, staying with the same material long enough that it becomes yours. So sometimes the best habit is not adding something new. It's removing something, removing pressure, removing comparison, removing unrealistic plans. For example, if you tell yourself, I will study English 2 hours every day, that sounds great. But if your life is busy, you might fail after 3 days and then feel guilty and quit. What if instead your habit is, every day I will spend 15 minutes listening to natural English, and I will repeat 2 useful sentences out loud. That is small enough to survive real life. And if it survives, it compounds. Now let's bring the story closer to Buffett for a minute. People talk about his fortune, but one of the most interesting parts is that he started early. He delivered newspapers as a kid, he saved money, he invested young, and because he started early, time did a lot of the work. And you might be thinking, well, Tom, I didn't start English early. I'm already an adult. I'm behind. I hear this all the time. And I get it, that feeling is painful. But here's the truth. You can't go back. You can only start now. And starting now still works. Your brain still learns. Adults can absolutely become fluent, confident speakers. I've watched it happen again and again. What changes everything is when you stop treating English like a school subject and start treating it like a daily relationship, like a daily part of your life. You don't need to do it perfectly. You need to do it regularly. Now, I want to talk about the biggest psychological block I see, and it connects to Buffett in a funny way. Buffett is comfortable being different. He's comfortable not doing what everyone else is doing. He's comfortable with being misunderstood in the short term if he believes he's right long term. English learners often have the opposite problem. They want approval in the moment. They want to sound correct right now. They want people to think, wow, your English is amazing. And that desire for approval makes you careful. It makes you quiet. You need a little bit of Buffett energy here. Not the money part, the calm part. The part that says, I'm okay being imperfect for a while. I'm okay sounding like a learner. I'm okay making mistakes as I build skill. Because mistakes are not proof you're bad at English. Mistakes are proof you're using English. There's a huge difference between someone who makes mistakes while speaking confidently and someone who makes fewer mistakes but never speaks. The first person improves faster every time. And I want to say something that might be uncomfortable, but it's important. If you want to be fluent, you have to be willing to sound a little stupid sometimes. Not because you are stupid, you're not, but because learning in public can feel that way. A native speaker might say something fast, you don't catch it. You say, sorry, can you say that again? You might feel embarrassed. But that's not stupidity, that's communication, that's strength, that's you staying in the conversation. Okay, now let's take one Buffett habit and turn it into a very practical English habit. Buffett reads constantly, but he also rereads. He goes back. He reviews. He doesn't just consume new information. He revisits what matters. Adult English learners often do the opposite. They always want new content, new podcast, new video, new article. And new content is great, but repetition is where fluency lives. If you listen to one short story or one podcast episode multiple times, something magical happens. The first time, you understand the meaning. The second time, you notice the phrases. The third time, you can predict what comes next. The fourth time, you can start repeating out loud. And when you can predict and repeat, you're not translating. You're building automatic English. That automatic English is what you feel when you say common phrases without thinking. That's what native speakers have. Not because we're geniuses, but because we've heard the same patterns thousands of times. So, if you want a Buffett-style habit for English, it's not more. It's rereading, re-listening, revisiting. Choose fewer things, go deeper. Now let's talk about another famous part of Buffett's personality. He's not flashy. He doesn't show off. He's focused on the work. A lot of learners think confidence means being loud, being fast, being witty. That's not real confidence. Real confidence is being okay with your pace. It's being okay with a small pause. It's being okay saying, let me think for a second. It's being okay saying, how do you say that? It's being okay asking a follow-up question. In real professional English, people pause all the time. Native speakers pause. We restart sentences. We change direction in the middle of a thought. We say, let me rephrase that. So, if you're aiming for perfect, smooth, never-stopping English, you're aiming for something that doesn't even exist. And that's where so much of your stress comes from. You're trying to sound like an edited video, but real conversations are live. They're messy. I remember a student of mine, very advanced, working at an international company. He told me, Tom, I can present in English, but I can't do small talk. Presentations are safe. You prepare. You control the language. But small talk is unpredictable, and that's exactly why daily habits matter. If you only practice English in big situations, you'll always feel pressure. If you practice in small ways every day, you build flexibility. Small talk is not about being interesting. It's about being present. It's about simple lines like, how's your week going? How was your weekend? Busy day today? That's a great question. I've been working on a few things, and you can add one detail, just one. That's enough. Now, Buffett also has a habit of learning from mistakes without getting emotional about them. Investors lose money sometimes. Everybody does. But Buffett's style is to learn, adjust, and keep going. That's exactly what confident English speakers do. They don't pretend they never make mistakes. They just don't panic. When you say something wrong, you have a few options. You can stop and apologize a lot and make it a big deal, or you can simply correct yourself and keep going. Native speakers do this all the time. We say, he were. Sorry, he was. Or, I went there on Thursday. And we move on. So practice this habit. When you make a mistake, don't punish yourself. Don't do a big emotional reaction. Just adjust and continue. That is what fluency looks like in real life. It's not perfection. It's recovery. Now let's zoom out for a second and talk about the title idea, Daily Habits That Built Buffett's Fortune. The key word is daily, not weekly, not sometimes, daily. And I know what you might be thinking. Tom, I'm busy. I have work. I have kids. I'm tired. I don't have time for daily English. I believe you. I really do. Adult life is full. But daily doesn't have to mean long. Daily can mean 5 minutes. Daily can mean English while you're cooking, English while you're driving, English while you're walking, English while you're cleaning. The habit is not, I will study for hours. The habit is, I will keep English in my life every day in some form so it stays warm. Because English is like a muscle, but it's also like a relationship. If you ignore it for weeks, it feels distant. If you spend a little time together every day, it feels natural. Now let me give you a real-life example I've seen a lot. Someone moves to an English-speaking country. At first, they improve quickly because they're surrounded by English. Then, after a few months, they get tired. They find friends who speak their native language. They work in an environment where they can avoid English. And their progress slows down. It's not because they're bad learners, it's because their daily input changed. Their daily habits changed. And the good news is, daily habits can change again. You can build a life where English is always nearby, not always intense, just nearby. And there's another Buffett idea here. He's known for focusing on quality. He'd rather buy a great company at a fair price than a fair company at a great price. Quality matters. In English, quality matters too. 10 minutes of focused listening, really paying attention to the way people naturally say things, is worth more than an hour of half listening while scrolling on your phone. And quality speaking practice is not always speaking with a native speaker. Quality practice can be you talking to yourself out loud, describing your day, explaining your opinion, summarizing what you listened to. It feels weird at first, but it works, because the goal is to make English come out of your mouth more easily, and that requires your mouth to practice. Let's connect this back to the story one more time. Buffett didn't build his fortune by doing one genius thing one time. He built it by doing many smart, boring things consistently: reading, thinking, staying calm, avoiding noise, being patient, sticking to what he understands, playing the long game. So if you want Buffett-style English progress, here's the emotional shift I want you to feel. You are not trying to win the conversation today. You are building a life where English feels normal. You're building a version of yourself who can handle real situations. A quick question from your boss, a joke from a coworker, a phone call with a delivery driver, a conversation at a party, an interview, a presentation, travel problems, doctor's appointments, neighbors, parents at your kid's school. And you do that with habits that seem too small to matter, but they matter because they happen every day. Now, I want to address one more block that stops people, and it's a big one: the fear of being judged. A lot of adult learners feel like mistakes are embarrassing because they think mistakes make them look less intelligent, especially if you're successful in your job, successful in your life, and then in English you suddenly feel like a child. That gap hurts. Here's what I've learned from teaching. Most native speakers do not judge you the way you think they do. They might notice your accent, they might notice a grammar mistake, but what they really notice is your energy. Are you open? Are you trying? Are you clear? And the people who do judge you harshly for an accent or a mistake, those people are not the standard you should live by. They're just rude. Don't build your confidence around the worst people. Build your confidence around progress, around the fact that you can do something today that you couldn't do a year ago, around the fact that you can travel, work, connect, and learn in another language. That's not small. Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a simple image. Imagine two people learning English. One person studies hard once a week. They do a long session, they take notes, they feel productive. But the rest of the week, no English. By the time the next session comes, they feel rusty again. Every week is like restarting the engine. The other person does a little bit every day. 10 minutes of listening, 1 minute of speaking out loud, a few phrases repeated. They don't feel like they're doing much. But their English stays warm, their brain stays connected to the language. They start thinking in English more often, without trying. They start having small moments of automatic speech. And those moments grow. That second person is doing what Buffett did with money. They're compounding. And I want you to remember this because it's one of the most comforting truths in language learning. You don't need to be extreme. You need to be consistent. If you miss a day, it's fine. Just come back the next day. No drama, no guilt. Buffett didn't quit because one day the stock market went down. He stayed in the game. You can stay in the game too. So next time you feel that familiar pressure, that tight feeling in your chest before you speak, that voice in your head saying, "Don't make a mistake, try this." Slow down, choose simple words, focus on your message, and remind yourself, I'm building a habit. I'm building a life. This is one repetition, because that's what it is. It's a repetition. Another day of input, another day of practice, another small step. And over time, those steps become a version of you who speaks English with less fear, less thinking, more ease, more personality, more you. Keep going. Keep it daily. Keep it human. And let the progress compound.